They're winning in ways nobody fully expected, and that surprise is reshaping how we should think about the Raptors this season. It's a subtle shift, but a meaningful one. The conversation around the team has evolved from talent checklists to process recognition. What follows are 8 truths that break down what's happening, why it matters, and how this group is quietly becoming tougher to beat. Raptors quiet transformations. Chapter 1, surprise road trip. Right now the Raptors are wrapping up a 5-game Western Conference road trip, and they've rattled off 3 straight wins against Golden State, Sacramento, and Portland. Out of that stretch is the clearest, most recent evidence that this team isn't just hitting its stride. It's doing so in a way that confounds expectations. For what's striking is the manner of these victories. Not a single superstar takeover, not a flurry of garbage time points, but balanced, competitive basketball where multiple players make real, game-altering contributions. On the Portland night, 7 players reached double figures and 8 logged at least 20 minutes. That's more than depth. It's a signal that a rotation is maturing into a resilient, interchangeable group that can handle the physical and tactical tests of an extended road trip. You don't build that by accident. It's a product of coaching, buy-in, and role clarity that is starting to coalesce at exactly the right time. Chapter 2, balanced attack. Balance has become a defining characteristic of these wins. In 3 straight games, the team had a different leading scorer every night. Quickly poured in 40 against Golden State. Scottie led with 23 versus Sacramento, and Sandro finished with 22 in Portland. That variability is brutally hard to defend because it forces opponents into constant reevaluation. Who do you game plan for tonight? When a roster can produce a new primary option on any given night, it eliminates the easy way to defend them. You can't sag off one guy or double team another without inviting somebody else to punish you. Beyond scoring leaders, the minutes distribution shows a coaching staff willing to trust role players and small ball lineups. That trust compounds into momentum. Bench guys know their assignments matter. Starters can manage workloads, and the team can maintain energy without a dramatic drop-off. Chapter 3, defense first. If there's one number that explains why the Raptors feel different, it's their defensive rating. 4th best in the NBA through 47 games. Most preseason narratives had the offense as the transformative element after the offseason additions. Instead, defense has become the team's carry. Here's how. It's not that they acquired a traditional defensive anchor at center. It's that the roster has created a defensive identity built on activity, switching, and disciplined rotation. Quick closeouts, aggressive on-ball pressure that forces bad passes, and help side rotations that punish lazy movement have turned contested shots into transition opportunities and easy possessions into chaotic ones for opponents. That structure is repeatable. It doesn't depend on a single elite rim protector. Sure, it's a system, and one that when executed can neutralize mismatches and keep Toronto competitive even when the offense is still finding consistent footing. Chapter 4, it's Scottie's two-way leap. Scottie Barnes has been the most visible embodiment of this identity. He's 2nd in the league in stocks with 127, leads the team in rebounds, steals, and blocks, and is currently the only player in the league with at least 60 steals and 60 blocks this season.
What do you think about the production? What has allowed you to produce the way that you have with your group?
I'm just playing the game the right way, going downhill, being aggressive, getting downhill, it just creates everything. It creates everything for my teammates.
Those are not just impressive box score lines. They're evidence of a player whose influence manifests across possessions. Scottie's ability to alter shots, create turnovers, and rebound on both ends makes him an engine for transition offense and a deterrent for opponents as they try to attack the paint. He's also become a prime example of a player who affects the game without needing to dominate the scoring column. That kind of two-way impact elevates teammates, forces opponents to plan for him constantly, and gives coaches the freedom to experiment with lineups that leverage his mobility and instinct. Chapter 5, young defensive spine. Scottie hasn't done it alone. Rookie Colin Murray-Boyles has provided complementary defensive value when healthy, posting a defensive rating that reads like an elite rookie defender's output. Scottie and Colin together form a young, energetic defensive spine. Their tendencies to switch, close out hard, and contest shots have set the tone for rotation principles. The result is an identity that begins with activity. You hustle for loose balls, quick recoveries, and communication on switches, and then layers and disciplined gap help. That mixture of energy and structure makes the collective defense repeatable and resilient to foul trouble or matchup changes. It's one thing to have 2 defensive ducks in a row on paper. It's another to have those 2 buyers of the system anchor a broader roster to ensure consistency across minutes. Chapter 6, 6. Creative offense and lineup chemistry. Offensively, the signs of growth are clear, even if they lag defensive execution. Emmanuel quickly finding rhythm has mattered more than just for his scoring line. Pairing him with backup Jamal Shed in a double point guard look has produced some of the most efficient 283 minutes on the floor this season. That small sample combo creases up late game defensive assignments and speeds possessions into places where the Raptors' active wing play and rebounding can create second chances. Darko Rajaković has been willing to lean into unconventional lineups and tweak personnel to build chemistry, and those experiments are paying off. The offense is organized, the sets read with clarity, and the creativity to run lineups with two creators has unlocked spacing, pace, and smarter shot selection. As minutes stabilize and confidence builds, it's logical to expect those offensive numbers to follow the defense upwards. Chapter 7, Closing and Rebounding Edge. One of the most consistent trademarks this team has shown is its ability to finish games. Their fourth quarter cohesion, finding the right closing rotations, switching coverages, and hunting matchups is a product of both competitive spirit and detailed coaching adjustments. In the recent game, the team dominated the offensive glass, an area where they've emerged as the league leader in offensive rebounding. That edge matters late because offensive rebounds extend possessions, force opponents to play extra defense, and often lead to high-value putbacks or kickouts to open shooters. When you combine that glass dominance with the commitment to rotating and contesting on defense, you create a formula for close game success. Keep possessions alive, secure defensive stops, and allow the roster's depth to generate the scoring it needs to close. Chapter 8, Depth, Coaching, and Outlook. Depth is more than luxury for this group. It's a strategic advantage. When 8 or 9 players can legitimately contribute on a consistent basis, opponents have to account for a broader attack and can't just force feed one matchup. That variability is disruptive. Darko Rajaković deserves huge credit for turning what could have been a messy rotation into a disciplined, role-aware unit that accepts dirty work and values details. He's a clear candidate for Coach of the Year conversation because the team's defensive fundamentals and willingness to adjust game to game put them ahead of expectation.
And to focus defensively what we're doing. Obviously, we don't go in a game and have a same game plan over the whole game, and we're trying to make adjustments.
Looking ahead, the defensive foundation gives this roster margin for error while the offense catches up, and that margin could be the difference between scraping in and securing a top seed. The most intriguing question is continuity. Will this identity hold through injuries, slumps, and playoff level adjustments? If the competing spirit, coaching adjustments, and role clarity persists, Toronto looks capable of outperforming preseason projections by a significant margin. If you want the short takeaway, this Raptors team is less about star volume and more about system, effort, and interchangeable impact players. Whether you crown Scottie as team MVP for his nightly two-way influence, favor Brandon for scoring upside, credit Quickly for recent offensive form, or celebrate Sandro for unexpected big nights, the real value lies in the collective. Naming individuals matters for narratives, awards, and market value, but what wins you games in February and March is rarely a single name hero. It's the set of reliable choices a coaching staff can make when the game tightens and the stakes rise. The coach, the bench, and that defensive spine have turned potential into reliable outcomes. That's why a squad labeled as having 2.5 stoppers is currently one of the league's best defensive units, and why their wins feel so surprising and sustainable. There's a difference between random hot streaks and structural improvement. What Toronto is showing feels structural. That gives their remaining schedule more teeth. Opponents have to plan for rotations instead of isolated stars, and that planning compresses the margin for error the other teams enjoy. It also means Toronto can lean into matchups where they have the energetic defenders and glass advantage late in games. Coach Rajaković has shown an ability to adapt in real time, and that responsiveness matters when roles shift and the schedule tightens. The bigger test is continuity. Can the team keep the same identity when bodies change, shots cool, or injuries arrive? Buy into defensive standards, and the small, unglamorous habits like boxing out and communicating make it more likely these traits survive short-term adversity. Rotation depth is a strategic asset on nights you lose a starter to foul trouble, when minutes need to be managed, and across back-to-back stretches. When the bench units copy the defensive principles and pursue the glass with effort, those minutes stop looking like holes and start looking like opportunity. It is methodical work, the opposite of flash, but it is what gives a team the margin to survive cold shooting nights and keep competing every night. The emphasis on closing and the rebounding edge the team has displayed change the math of late possessions. When offensive boards translate into extra shots, defenses must work harder, and fatigue becomes a variable that favors the more active, deeper roster. That advantage accumulates across a game and across a season. The team that wins the rebound battle consistently will get more clean looks and more second chance points. It also changes late game decision making. Opponents must choose between guarding the perimeter or protecting the rim and the glass, and that split often opens the precise windows Toronto needs. Beyond the rebounding and the rotations, the mental edge matters. Playing with confidence and believing the system creates a compounding effect that is hard to quantify. It appears in how the bench responds, in starters accepting shorter runs, and in feeding steady energy into each possession consistently. The final note is about upside and sustainability. If the defensive structure holds, then even imperfect shooting nights become manageable, and the ceiling on wins rises steadily. That is why the sequence of wins on the road matter. They are not flukes, but experiments in spacing, rotations, and trust that produce repeatable outcomes. If injuries strike or shooting cools, the answer is not panic. It's to fall back on the system, shorten the bench if needed, and ride the strengths of rebounding and defensive activity until the offense finds rhythm again. That approach values process over instant gratification and tends to reward patience, preparation, and the types of small in-game adjustments that win playoff series. So if you enjoy the nuance, the quiet wins, and the satisfaction of watching a unit learn to win together, keep following this story. If you enjoyed this video, you'll probably like this one right here. It's a related breakdown that builds on the same themes, so click it now.